Imagine standing at the precipice of absolute despair. Everything you hold dear, your family, your possessions, even your very name, your identity, stripped away in circumstances so brutal, so utterly dehumanizing, they defy easy comprehension.
It's almost impossible to truly picture it, isn't it?
It really is. And in such an abyss, how could you find a way to endure? Our deep dive today begins with the profoundly harrowing yet ultimately redemptive personal odyssey of Viktor Frankl.
A Holocaust survivor, yeah.
Exactly. And his insights into the human spirit, well, they resonate with a timeless, enduring philosophy that stretches way back to ancient Greece and Rome.
It's an incredibly powerful and I think necessary starting point for talking about resilience today. Frankl's journey.
Mm-hmm.
It gives us this unvarnished, visceral illustration of our fundamental human capacity to find meaning.
Even in the worst possible circumstances.
Even in the face of absolute soul-crushing despair, the philosophy he painstakingly developed from those experiences, it offers this undeniable testament to the unshakable inner strength of the human will. It's a reminder that even when the whole external world collapses around you, something precious, something inviolable within us remains.
That's really the core of what we're exploring today. We are diving headfirst into this profound idea of will, the last of the human freedoms. Our mission really is to uncover and truly understand how, even when every conceivable external control is completely lost, the power to choose our attitude, our response, persists.
That inner freedom.
That inner freedom. And as we'll argue, it isn't just some silver lining. It is the ultimate, unassailable source of human resilience. We'll be drawing heavily from Frankl's wisdom, of course, especially his amazing book, Man's Search for Meaning.
A must-read, really.
Absolutely. But we're also connecting his insights directly with the robust framework of Stoic philosophy. We'll trace these timeless strategies for navigating life's most challenging circumstances through figures like Epictetus, Seneca, Marcus Aurelius.
The big names.
Right. Our sources for this deep dive, they're kind of a rich tapestry, weaving together modern psychological insights with that ancient wisdom. We've got classic texts like Irvine's A Guide to the Good Life, Becker's A New Stoicism, Fiddler's Breakfast with Seneca, A. Long's Guide to Epictetus.
And quite a few others, too, right? Contemporary stuff as well.
Oh, yeah, definitely. We're also benefiting from contemporary interpretations and guides by authors like Ryan Holiday, Sharon LaBelle, Nancy Sherman, many others. But they're all sort of converging on this singular, powerful idea of inner freedom.
And the reason this topic matters so profoundly to you, our listener, is that this isn't just, academic navel-gazing.
Not at all.
Whether you're grappling with a personal setback, navigating complex professional pressures, maybe just trying to maintain your inner calm and direction in what often feels like an increasingly chaotic world.
Which is most of us, probably.
Right. The lessons we unpack today offer truly powerful, practical tools for building an unshakable resilience. This isn't just abstract theory. It's about acquiring enduring wisdom to navigate your life with greater purpose and hopefully greater peace.
Okay, so let's begin where the very concept of human freedom faced its most horrific, its ultimate test, the concentration camps of World War II. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist, a neurologist, he endured the unimaginable. Theresienstadt, Auschwitz.
The place is synonymous with horror.
Exactly. And when he entered those gates, everything was systematically stripped away from him. Can you help us sort of paint a picture of that initial shock, just how utterly dispossessed he was?
It's a scene Frankl recounts with just stark, unforgettable detail.
Mm.
Imagine arriving somewhere and your very identity is just annihilated upon entry.
Gone.
Gone. That's what happened. Prisoners were immediately stripped of all identity documents, every single personal possession, every photograph, every memento that linked them to their past life. They ceased to be individuals.
Names, professions, histories.
All erased. They became mere numbers, literally tattooed onto their skin. A chilling, indelible mark of just complete dehumanization.
Wow.
And this wasn't just physical deprivation. It was a systematic, calculated erasure of the self. Frankl, in this desperate attempt to cling to some tiny piece of his former life, he'd sewn a scientific manuscript.
His life's work.
His life's work, the culmination of years of intellectual labor, into the lining of his coat pocket. He believed it represented, his unique contribution, maybe a piece of himself that could somehow survive this.
That act itself, trying to save the manuscript, it speaks volumes, doesn't it, about holding on to hope, onto identity. But then came that moment, that shit moment, as he famously described it. What happened there, and how did that really symbolize his complete immersion?
It's one of the most poignant and frankly gut-wrenching moments in Man's Search for Meaning. Frankl still maybe a bit naive to the absolute brutality of it all.
Understand?
Right. He attempted to confide in an older, more experienced prisoner. He showed him the coat, pointed to the manuscript sewn inside, tried to explain its immense personal, professional significance.
And the reaction.
The old prisoner, after a moment, just grinned. Frankl describes it as first a flicker of pity, then amusement, and finally just this chilling mockery. He spat out a single contemptuous word, shit. For Frankl, this wasn't just dismissive. It was the definitive moment. His full, brutal immersion into the reality of the camp. That single word symbolized the complete obliteration of his former identity, his achievements, his cherished intellectual life. Everything.
Everything he thought defined him.
Everything. Utterly worthless in that environment. And the initial psychological shock, that feeling of losing everything, was deepened even further by the bitter, uncaring, almost predatory attitude of the experienced prisoners. They seemed to confirm that the camp hadn't just stolen their freedom, but their very humanity.
Like there was nothing left.
He realized then, he said, that he had nothing left but his naked existence.
That's incredibly stark. That complete dismemberment of self, the stripping away of every external anchor. It's almost impossible to fathom. And yet this is where it gets, well, really interesting and frankly truly inspiring. Amidst that absolute degradation, Frankl had this profound revelation.
About meaning.
About meaning and resilience. How did he find meaning in such profound suffering? How did that even begin to emerge from such darkness?
This is truly the core of his groundbreaking work, isn't it?
Yeah.
The essence of logotherapy. Frankl realized that the concentration camps, paradoxically, revealed the absolute central role of meaning in human life.
The ultimate testing ground.
Exactly. He observed that those prisoners who found some sense of purpose, even a tiny flicker of it, exhibited these unbelievable levels of resilience.
Wow.
And he didn't see meaning as some abstract philosophical thing to be pondered from, an armchair. Instead, he found that meaning is discovered, experienced, and lived out in choices that engage the circumstances of life.
So it's active, not passive.
Absolutely crucial. Life, for Frankl, isn't inert. It's an active, demanding process. It constantly asks questions of us. It demands an engaged, personal living response. And this proactive engagement, he observed, always reveals meaning.
Even in suffering, especially in suffering.
Even and maybe especially in the presence of suffering. It's this meaning that provides a person with the inner strength, the fortitude, to deal with the most horrific, seemingly insurmountable situations.
So it wasn't just about passively enduring, gritting your teeth. It was about actively seeking, maybe even creating, purpose, moment by moment, choice by choice.
That's it, exactly.
What was the lasting impact of this realization on him, particularly after liberation? Did it change his fundamental outlook on life itself?
Oh, absolutely. Profoundly. Post-liberation, even amidst the flood of nightmarish memories, the ghosts of the past, Frankl achieved this profound and liberating clarity.
Which was?
He realized that having gone through everything he had nothing left to fear from life and could truly live in fear of God alone. Now, that's a radical shift in perspective, isn't it?
Completely. Forged in the crucible.
Forged directly in the crucible of extreme adversity. And it highlights how ultimate freedom really is an internal state. It's fundamentally independent of external conditions or circumstances.
And what's fascinating is you mentioned this wasn't entirely new to him. He had some kind of intuition about this even earlier.
Yeah, he recognized it as a powerful confirmation of a childhood intuition he'd always held. Even as a young teenager, apparently. He instinctively objected really intensely to a science teacher's reductionist statement that life is nothing but combustion.
Just a chemical reaction.
Right. He always felt, even then, that meaning permeates human existence beyond any purely material or biological explanation. His camp experience just provided the ultimate, undeniable, visceral proof.
That childhood intuition, that sense that life is more than just mechanics, that really speaks volumes about his innate philosophical bent, doesn't it?
It really does.
Which brings us to logotherapy, the sort of practical application of these insights. He saw it not as a totally brand new approach, but more as a rehumanizing adjunct to psychiatry. What does logotherapy actually do? And what is this powerful voice of conscience he talks about?
Logotherapy, at its core, is fundamentally about helping individuals recognize their true selves, to tap into their inherent capacity for meaning. It's a method to aid individuals in discovering their unique meaning in life.
Finding their why.
Finding their why, exactly. And the voice of conscience is indeed a crucial element. Frankl describes it as this largely unconscious voice that is always there, sort of lying beneath the surface of our everyday thoughts. But it forcefully emerges into our consciousness when we neglect our responsibilities.
Like an internal alarm bell.
Kind of like an internal compass, yeah.
Yeah.
An inner moral guide. It directs us toward making moral choices and finding meaning through what is self-transcendence.
Self-transcendence.
Yeah, it's a process of moving beyond just pure self-interest and finding purpose in something greater than ourselves. That could be a cause, a loved one, a creative work, service to others.
Something bigger.
Something bigger than just me.
So it's an internal navigator guiding us toward what truly matters. And how does logotherapy as a therapeutic approach address very practical issues, like, say, anticipatory anxiety, where the fear of something can actually bring it about?
Right, that's a great question. One of its most insightful and widely adopted techniques is called paradoxical intention. It's particularly effective for that kind of anticipatory anxiety.
Okay.
And this is a really common phenomenon, right? Where the fear of a situation, say, the fear of blushing or stuttering or having a panic attack, often actually produces or makes worse the very outcome that's feared.
The self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly. Logotherapy aims to break this vicious cycle by engaging the individual's will in a kind of counterintuitive way. Well, instead of trying desperately to suppress the feared symptom, which usually just intensifies it, the technique encourages the individual to intend or even wish for the feared symptom to occur.
Really? Like try to blush?
Exactly. Someone with social anxiety about blushing might be advised to deliberately try and blush as much as possible in a social situation. It sounds weird, but this humorous, almost defiant act often strips the fear of its power and interrupts the cycle.
It takes the pressure off.
It takes the pressure off, and it helps the person regain control by actively choosing to engage with the fear rather than being paralyzed by it. And this points to a deeper truth in Frankl's work, that human existence involves this ongoing spiritual struggle.
A struggle between what?
He describes it as a fundamental tension between our existential freedom, that incredibly vast realm of possibilities and choices open to us at any moment, and our facticity.
Facticity.
Yeah, the unchangeable realities of our life, our past, our physical limitations, the circumstances we're born into, the stuff we can't change. Spirituality, in Frankl's view, and again, not necessarily organized religion, is about this deep human drive to find wholeness, coherence, and meaning within that tension. It's how we transcend our limitations through our choices and our pursuit of higher values.
It's truly incredible how Frankl's experience, so intensely personal, so deeply modern in some ways, just resonates with and illuminates these ancient philosophical truths. It's almost as if he rediscovered, through unimaginable suffering, the wisdom of philosophies that grappled with the exact same questions centuries ago.
Perennial questions, right? About human freedom, resilience.
Exactly. Which brings us neatly to a figure centuries removed from Frankl, yet profoundly connected. Epictetus. His story is quite compelling in itself, a former slave who, remarkably, taught absolute freedom.
An amazing life story.
What made his teaching so impactful, influencing even towering figures like the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius?
Epictetus was indeed a truly remarkable figure, a testament to his own philosophy, really. Born into slavery in Phrygia, what's now Turkey, he eventually gained his freedom. But then later, he was banished from Rome by Emperor Domitian. Seems philosophers were getting a bit too influential for his liking.
Happens sometimes.
Right. So Epictetus established this highly respected philosophical school in Nicopolis in Greece. And his central doctrine, the absolute core of his teaching, was the absolute autonomy in principle of volition or will.
Volition or will, what the Stoics called prohairesis.
Exactly, prohairesis. And this isn't just a simple act of choosing something, like what to have for lunch. Epictetus understood prohairesis as essentially each person's individual self. It encompasses our entire inner world, our capacities for reason, desire, intention, and crucially reflexive consciousness.
That ability to be aware of our own thoughts and choices.
Precisely. The command center, if you like.
That sounds truly foundational, all-encompassing. And he considered this autonomous faculty a special gift from God, didn't he?
Absolutely. Epictetus believed this autonomous faculty, this prohairesis, was God's special gift to our species. He saw it as forming the very bedrock of human ethics, logic, even their understanding of nature. He famously declared, "If you will, you are free."
Simple, but profound.
It wasn't just a nice saying for him. It was a profound statement about an inner citadel of control, an inner fortress that remains inviolably ours, regardless of any external change or circumstances. And that is the very thing that connects him so powerfully back to Frank's experience in the camps.
If you will, you are free. That's a truly powerful and liberating statement. But okay, practically speaking, what exactly is up to us? The Stoics have this concept, the dichotomy of control, which is so fundamental to their thinking. It offers real practical guidance. Can you elaborate? What did Epictetus put into each category?
The dichotomy of control is perhaps the most famous and I think the most profoundly practical Stoic teaching. Epictetus meticulously distinguishes between things we have complete control over and things we have, well, some, but not complete control, or maybe no control at all.
Okay, so what's in the first bucket? The complete control one.
In the first and most crucial category, things we have complete control over, he places our opinions, our judgments, our assent to impressions, meaning whether we agree with our initial take on things, our desires, and our aversions. Basically, our inner mental acts.
All internal stuff.
All purely internal.
Mm-hmm.
In the second category, things we don't fully control or control at all, he lists things like our body, our possessions, our reputation, our health, our career, and all external events.
The weather, other people's actions.
Exactly. The results of our efforts, even. Things outside our direct command. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Because while we don't control, say, whether someone insults us,
we do control.
We can absolutely choose how to respond to that insult, our judgment about it, our internal reaction. That is up to us.
So, to draw the parallel with Frankl again, if an external threat comes along, like the horrors of the concentration camp or maybe a tyrannical emperor for Epictetus, right, the threat itself isn't what genuinely constrains you. It's your decision about it, your internal judgment. Is that the direct link to Frankl's choice of attitude?
Precisely. Epictetus highlights this. He famously says something like, what constrains you is not the threat, but your decision that it is better to do something else rather than die.
Wow. Chillingly relevant.
It's a direct and chilling parallel to Frankl's realization that even in the camps, when every physical freedom was denied, he retained that ultimate, non-negotiable freedom to choose his attitude, his internal response.
His inner posture.
His inner posture. Epictetus uses this powerful, almost blunt analogy. If someone physically impedes your walk, they impede your body, as he would impede a stone. Just a physical object.
But not your mind.
But your assent, your internal agreement or disagreement with the situation, your inner stance, remains unimpeded. He explicitly states, wherever there is a need for the body and the body's cooperation, you have long ago heard that nothing is your own. The core idea here, the truly revolutionary insight, is that your faculty of volition, your will, your prohairesis, is inherently unimpeded, unconstrained, unhindered. It is fundamentally free.
That's a profound thought. My inner self, my will, is free even if my body is imprisoned. This implies we should be really careful about where we place our focus then, right? Avoiding fixating on external things. It's so easy to get caught up wanting stuff outside our control.
It is dangerously easy. And Epictetus issues a clear warning. If you gape after externals, you will inevitably be forced up and down according to the will of your master.
And who's the master?
Whoever has power over the things you're trying to gain or avoid. This is a truly crucial insight for practical living, day to day. If your happiness, your peace of mind, your sense of self-worth depends on money or social status or another person's approval,
then those things become your master.
Exactly. Those external things, and by extension, the people or circumstances that control them, effectively become your masters. You are then enslaved to their whims. He argued that the only thing that can truly overcome an impulse or desire stemming from that external focus is another impulse or desire.
So it's an internal battle.
Again, underscoring that the battleground is always internal, emphasizing our fundamental internal agency. We are not automatons. We are always choosing, even if we don't realize it.
That's a powerful distinction, shifting the battleground from a futile external struggle to a manageable internal one. Now let's talk about the meaning of will itself, this prohairesis. It seems a bit more nuanced, maybe more expansive than our modern, narrower understanding of just willpower, isn't it?
It absolutely is, yeah. While prohairesis is sometimes translated as moral purpose or moral character, and those capture aspects of it, the word will often gets closest to its essence. But it's important to understand that Epictetus envisions it as the entirety of one's rational, volitional mentality.
Not just a separate faculty.
Not just a separate faculty like the willpower muscle. It's the central command system of the self. the faculty that allows us to reason, to assent, to choose. It's what makes us moral agents, capable of formulating objectives, making judgments, and striving to achieve them. And crucially, he states that prohairesis is the only inalienable thing that we have and that we are.
Wow, so that's our core identity, our essence.
That's how he saw it.
So our true self isn't our body, our possessions, our achievements,
Yeah.
but this inner faculty of volition. That sounds like a pretty radical redefinition of self.
Exactly. Epictetus puts it quite starkly and poetically, actually. You are not flesh or hair, but volition. If you keep that beautiful, then you will be beautiful.
Keep your will beautiful.
Keep your will beautiful. And he links this directly to human excellence, to what it means to be truly good and virtuous. When we praise someone as just or courageous or wise, he argues, we're recognizing the excellence of a man, the possession of the excellence of a man. This is what we should truly labor to acquire.
That internal beauty of the will.
Because it is entirely within our control and constitutes our deepest, most beautiful, and most truly free self. This perspective fundamentally reframes where we should direct our efforts and aspirations in life, doesn't it? Anchoring them firmly in that inner freedom.
The idea that our core identity is our volition, our prohairesis, that it's the one thing truly up to us, that, gosh, that shifts so much about how we perceive ourselves in the world. It makes me think about emotions.
Oh, yes, emotions.
Which so often feel anything but under our control, right? It can feel like a storm we're just caught in. How do Stoics, like Epictetus, approach these intense internal experiences that seem to overwhelm us?
This is precisely where Stoicism offers some of its most, I think, immensely practical and enduring wisdom. A true therapy for the mind, as some have called it. Epictetus's famous dictum is absolutely key here. It's not things that upset us, but our judgments about things.
We hear that a lot.
We do. And this principle, though ancient, isn't just some philosophical quirk. It's a cornerstone of modern cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT.
Right, cognitive distancing, things like that.
Exactly. Cognitive restructuring, cognitive distancing. It highlights the emotional sting, the distress we feel, comes primarily from our interpretation of an event, our value judgment about it, not from the external event itself.
Right.
The event is neutral, or at least the facts are neutral. Our reaction gives it its emotional charge.
So when something challenging happens and we instantly label it a catastrophe or a disaster, we're adding our own dramatic spin. We're essentially distorting reality and, in a sense, maybe even lying to ourselves.
Precisely.
Oh,
When we jump to label something as a catastrophe, we're going far beyond the bare objective facts. We're adding our own subjective value judgment, which distorts reality. And in the Stoic view, that deceives ourselves. Stoics actually considered lying, even to oneself, a form of impiety.
really?
Impiety, yeah, because it alienates us from reason and from nature, from seeing things as they are. They actually saw themselves as doctors of the mind, not just abstract philosophers. They were actively developing psychological techniques to prevent and deal with negative emotions.
Practical tools.
Practical tools. For example, they understood that insults are only truly hurtful because of our interpretation of them, our assent to their perceived meaning, not simply their content. Crispus, an earlier Stoic, he noted that while emotions like anger or intense love can propel us and carry us away once they're ignited.
Like a wave.
Like a wave, yeah. But this emotional inflammation, as he called it, eventually abates with time. Reason can return and expose their fundamentally irrational, illogical nature. It's like a fever that eventually breaks, allowing clear thought again.
That's a powerful analogy, doctors of the mind. Let's dig deeper into a specific emotion that can feel so overwhelming. Anger. How did Seneca or Epictetus view anger? Why did they advocate such rigorous control over it?
Seneca, in his treatise on anger, starkly describes it as a disease of the body characterized by swelling, kind of temporary madness almost. He argued that it's always better to act calmly, from a place of loyalty, duty, or justice, rather than being propelled by raw, unthinking rage. Even if anger seems to spur us to fight against wrongdoing or injustice, Seneca would contend that acting with courage and justice, but with a tranquil mind, is far superior and ultimately more effective.
So anger is a product of judgment.
Like all emotions, in their view, anger is seen as a product of a judgment made in the mind, a judgment that some wrong has been done to us or that something truly terrible has occurred. And if it's a product of judgment,
Then we can control the judgment.
exactly. This means it is something we can control, or at least it is something that we can try to avoid in the future by carefully examining and revising those underlying judgments.
So if someone is angry at you, their anger isn't yours to fix, but your reaction to it, that is yours. That's a hard truth, maybe counterintuitive for many who feel compelled to react in kind, right?
It is hard, but it's incredibly liberating once you really grasp it.
Yeah.
Epictetus illustrated this vividly. A man came to him, apparently very upset and complaining about his brother's anger.
Okay.
Epictetus's blunt reply was basically, nothing. You can do nothing about his anger. He then immediately shifted the focus back to the man's own reaction, explaining that the man's distress, his upset, was generated entirely by his own judgment about his brother's anger, and that was something entirely within his power to fix.
Ouch, but fair.
It ties into this Socratic principle, which Epictetus followed closely, that no one sins willingly, meaning that wrongdoing is never strictly perceived as bad at the moment of action by the person doing it. Instead, they are mistakenly motivated by a desire for what they perceive as good or beneficial, however misguided that perception might be.
So they think they're doing right, even when they're doing wrong.
In that instant, yes. It's a profound take on human motivation that informs how we should respond to the perceived faults of others, ideally with understanding, or at least rational correction, not reciprocal anger.
That's a subtle but vital point about human intention. It also suggests, maybe, that not all feelings are bad in the Stoic sense. What's the difference between those natural, maybe involuntary feelings and those debilitating, harmful passions that we strive to avoid?
That's an excellent and crucial distinction. It's often misunderstood about Stoicism. People think they aim to be unfeeling robots.
Right, the stereotype.
Exactly. But Seneca explicitly recognized that a wise person, a Stoic sage even, will tremble and feel pain and grow pale when startled, or in response to a sudden shock.
So like flinching.
Exactly. These are simply feelings of the body, natural, involuntary physiological effects, like flinching from a loud noise or feeling a momentary pang of sadness at a loss. These are natural and don't count against virtue. The key is that these immediate precognitive reactions are not to be confused with debilitating passions.
Like dread or deep grief.
Right. Things like dread, intense grief, overwhelming anger. These arise from actively judging that something truly terrible is looming or that an overwhelming loss has occurred, and then assenting to that judgment, buying into it fully.
So the passions involve judgment and agreement?
Yes. The passions are active, often erroneous judgments that we assent to, while these natural feelings are more like passive initial reactions that we don't necessarily endorse or elaborate on with our reason. The Stoic perspective is that it is in our nature to respond effectively, but it is not in our nature to be overpowered by our own effective responses.
We're not built to be overwhelmed.
We are unfree only because we are at variance with ourselves, meaning when our reason gets into a fight with our impulses and loses, when we let the initial feeling dictate our response without rational assessment.
That's a crucial insight, that our unfreedom comes from internal conflict, not the emotions themselves. It means we have agency even in the face of strong feelings. So how do we cultivate this kind of consistency, this inner harmony where reason guides our effective responses?
It's all about diligent practice and consistent habit, like any skill you want to master, really. We strengthen or weaken emotional responses through repetition and conscious choices over time.
Practice.
Epictetus advises, quite practically, if you don't want an angry temper, then don't feed the habit. Give it nothing to help its increase.
Don't pour fuel on the fire.
Exactly. Be quiet at first and reckon the days in which you have not been angry. The idea is to consciously starve the negative habit. Create a gap, a pause, between the initial impulse and your reasoned response. Allow a wiser, more rational response to eventually override the automatic, often unhelpful one.
So it's not about being unfeeling.
Not at all. This consistency is not about being unfeeling or emotionless. It's about training your internal system so that your reasoning mind is always in control, always the commander, not constantly being overwhelmed by raw, unexamined impulses. It's a daily practice of vigilance, self-awareness, and intentional choice. Another useful technique, which we'll get into, is mentally rehearsing how you'd respond to potential triggers before they happen.
Premeditation.
Premeditation, exactly. Allowing you to choose your reaction ahead of time, rather than being caught off guard.
Okay, so much of this wisdom centers on internal control, refining our judgments, managing our emotional responses in the moment. But what about proactively preparing for adversity? It feels like we're often caught off guard by life's challenges, just blindsided by misfortune. What specific techniques did the Stoics use to build this inner citadel of resilience before the storm even hit?
This brings us to a truly core and, I think, incredibly powerful Stoic technique known as premeditatio malorum.
The premeditation of adversity or evils?
Right, the premeditation of adversity. It's a practice of preparing for potential setbacks by patiently visualizing every major type of misfortune one at a time, as if it were already happening to them.
Wow, that sounds...
Intense. It is intense, but it's not about morbid dwelling or somehow wishing for bad things to happen. It's a deliberate mental exercise. It includes imagining scenarios like exile, poverty, bereavement, illness, the loss of reputation.
Even your own death.
Even one's own death. By doing this, they aim to lessen the shock and the emotional impact should these events actually occur. Familiarity breeds contempt, or at least reduces terror.
That sounds intense, almost counterintuitive maybe, to deliberately think of worst-case scenarios, but I can see the psychological logic. It's a bit like a form of mental stress inoculation, isn't it?
Exactly. That's a perfect modern analogy. Modern behavioral psychology uses a similar concept called stress inoculation, where exposure to stressful situations in small, controlled doses builds a general resistance to emotional disturbance, fostering resilience. The Stoics were essentially doing this on a philosophical, mental level centuries ago.
Ahead of their time.
Way ahead. Marcus Aurelius, for instance, in his Meditations, he records his own morning ritual, where he would say to himself, begin the morning by saying to yourself, I shall meet with the busybody, the ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful, envious, unsocial.
Preparing for difficult people.
Preparing for difficult people, yes. But this wasn't just for petty nuisances or, frustrating colleagues. As a Roman emperor, he faced truly immense political and military crises. The devastating Marcomannic Wars, betrayals by allies like King Balamar.
Real stakes.
Real life and death stakes. This daily ritual helped him prepare calmly to anticipate challenges and to meet immense difficulties with a composed and ready mind, rather than being swept away by shock or anger or fear.
So it's about mentally accepting the possibility, even the inevitability of misfortune, rather than living in a state of maybe naive optimism, hoping bad things just won't happen. Seneca also had a powerful perspective on this, didn't he? That it's illogical to think bad things won't happen to you simply because they haven't yet.
Indeed. Seneca found it profoundly illogical to think to oneself when facing some misfortune, I didn't think this would happen to me, especially since misfortune is a universal human experience. It has happened to countless others and is, in some form or another, inevitable for all of us.
It's part of the deal.
It's part of the human condition. He believed that reflecting on these possibilities ahead of time helps to lessen the blow when they do occur. It's about building a robust mental framework, that inner fortress, that anticipates life's difficulties rather than being blindsided and overwhelmed by them. It prepares you to meet the storm with a calm recognition, allowing you to say, perhaps, okay, this is it. This is what I prepared for. I am ready.
Taking the surprise element out of it.
Taking the surprise element out, which reduces the panic. Seneca also pushed his students to practice voluntary discomfort, sometimes living simply, maybe enduring cold or hunger occasionally.
Why?
Not to punish themselves, but to train themselves to be less dependent on comfort and luxury. It makes you more resilient to actual deprivation if it comes. You realize you can handle more than you thought.
That makes a lot of sense, not letting comfort make us soft. Beyond just preparing for them, the Stoics also saw adversity as a unique training ground for virtue. This is the idea that the obstacle is the way, which is a phrase we hear a lot today, largely thanks to Ryan Holiday. Can you explain that reframe? How is the obstacle the way?
This is a truly powerful and transformative reframe of adversity. The core idea is exactly that. No matter what life throws at us, we have a choice. Will we be blocked by challenges, or will we fight through them? Will we use them? Either we shrink or we grow.
The choice is ours.
The choice is ours. Seneca, in his writings, draws this striking analogy. He compares God, or nature, or the universe, to a general sending his finest, most courageous soldiers into the most difficult, dangerous battles.
Okay.
He argues quite provocatively that God will send the toughest challenges only to the most worthy individuals. From this perspective, experiencing adversity isn't a sign of punishment or bad luck. It becomes almost a mark of having a virtuous character, a signal that you're being tested, refined, trusted with a difficult mission.
So challenges aren't just things to be endured or overcome. They're actually opportunities, even gifts maybe, for personal and moral growth.
Precisely. The Stoics believe that whatever adversity life throws at us will always be an opportunity to learn something about ourselves and to improve our characters. This active engagement with difficulties develops and strengthens virtues like patience, courage, perseverance, self-control, and ultimately resilience. It's the workout for the soul.
The workout for the soul? I like that.
In fact, they held this fascinating, almost counterintuitive belief that excessive good fortune is in fact really bad for us.
Too much comfort is bad.
Unending luxury, Seneca argued, makes us lazy, complacent, ungrateful, and greedy. Without challenges, our virtues become untested, flabby, underdeveloped. He considered this kind of unchecked prosperity to be real misfortune because it robs us of the very opportunities needed to forge a strong, virtuous character.
That's a stark reminder that comfort isn't always good for us, and that true strength is often forged in fire. Finally, let's talk about mortality. The Stoics didn't shy away from contemplating death. In fact, they actively embraced the idea of dying every day. What did Seneca mean by that? How did it inform their approach to life?
Seneca offered this stark yet profoundly liberating reminder. We do not suddenly fall on death, but advance toward it by slight degrees. We die every day.
We die every day.
For every day, a little of our life is taken from us. Even when we are growing, our life is on the wane. This perspective isn't about fostering morbid fear or dwelling on the inevitable end. Rather, it's a powerful call to seize the present moment, to make every moment count.
Carpe diem, but with a Stoic twist.
Exactly. The task, he stressed, isn't necessarily to live as long as possible, but to enjoy and make full use of each day as it comes, not forgetting that it could perhaps be our last. It's an urgent reminder to live fully, consciously, virtuously now, without deferring our true lives.
That puts a powerful emphasis on living intentionally in the present. It seems like the goal is to be always ready for departure, without regret, by truly living each day.
Exactly. Marcus Aurelius speaks of this profound readiness. If, therefore, whensoever the time of thy departing shall come, thou shalt readily leave all things, and shalt respect thy mind only, and that divine part of thine.
The volition, the reason.
And this shall be thine only fear, not that sometime or other thou shalt cease to live, but thou shalt never begin to live according to nature. This deep acceptance and readiness for death, born from living fully and virtuously each day, it frees us from anxiety about the inevitable. It's about ensuring that you begin to live according to your highest nature, according to reason and virtue, right now, rather than constantly deferring your true life until some mythical future moment that may never arrive.
And what about the highly sensitive and often controversial topic of suicide? Did the Stoics consider it a legitimate option, or was it seen purely as an evasion of life's challenges?
The Stoics had a complex and nuanced view on suicide, which definitely differs significantly from many modern perspectives. It certainly wasn't an act to be taken lightly or encouraged.
Okay.
Seneca, for example, he mused on suicide as a potential preemptive measure against a certain, often excruciating death, particularly relevant under the tyrannical reign of someone like Emperor Nero, where politically motivated executions were common. He grappled with it deeply, admitting he couldn't always make up his mind on its absolute propriety. But he saw it as a potential final assertion of one's freedom from external mastery, a way to control one's exit.
The last resort of freedom.
Perhaps. Epictetus, honoring the example of his hero Socrates, who chose death over exile or compromising his principles, granted its conditional propriety, but only under very specific, dire circumstances. It was never to be an arbitrary act or an escape from minor discomforts or responsibilities. It had to be considered in alignment with one's prohairesis and a life of virtue.
So specific conditions.
Very specific. It was essentially seen as an option only when one could no longer live a life of virtue or fulfill one's duties according to nature, or perhaps when one was explicitly signaled by God or fate that the door was open, a metaphorical permission to exit with dignity when life, according to virtue, was no longer possible. It was a final, extreme assertion of internal freedom, maybe, but certainly not a casual choice or a shirking of responsibility.
So we've established that the foundation for resilience and meaning is deeply rooted in our internal will, our prohairesis, our choices, our judgments. This brings us to the question of living a meaningful life itself, which seems to extend beyond just our personal will, doesn't it? How does Frankl's voice of conscience and that idea of self-transcendence fit into this larger picture of a purposeful existence?
Frankl's voice of conscience is absolutely central to this larger picture, I think. He saw it as always there, emerging into consciousness when we ignore responsibility. It's this subtle but persistent inner call that guides us to recognize our true selves and our unique responsibilities in the world.
What life is asking of us.
What life is asking of us, exactly. And this voice, when heeded, naturally pushes us towards self-transcendence. For Frankl, spirituality brings wholeness to a person. And again, remember, this isn't necessarily about organized religion for him.
Right.
It's about that fundamental human drive to find a greater purpose, to step outside of our own ego, to contribute to something larger than ourselves. This allows us to gain a profound perspective on our moral choices and fosters that crucial self-transcendence, moving beyond mere self-interest to a higher, more encompassing purpose.
Yeah.
Ultimately, he stresses that meaning is discovered, experienced, and lived out in choices that engage the circumstances of life. It's an active, ongoing process.
Living out values, responding responsibly.
Exactly. Responding responsibly to life's demands, moment by moment.
And the Stoics connect this strongly with living in accord with nature and often some kind of divine element. What does living in accord with nature truly mean for them in practical terms? How does it lead to happiness and purpose?
For the Stoics, happiness fundamentally consists in living in accord with nature, which they essentially equated with living in accordance with virtue. But what does that really mean practically? It means fulfilling our natural potential for wisdom, our unique human capacity for reason.
Using our reason.
Using our reason. As rational beings, our nature is to think, to judge, to act logically and virtuously. So to live in accord with nature means to live consistently with our most developed rational self, rather than being swayed by irrational emotions or external impulses that pull us off course.
Okay.
Epictetus, for example, urged his students constantly to focus on God's special gift to humans, which is reason, our unique faculty. He even proclaimed, quite startlingly, "You are carrying God around, you poor thing, and you don't know it."
Carrying God around.
Yeah, highlighting an immanent divinity within us, a spark of universal reason, the logos, that connects us to the cosmos and gives us our moral compass.
So it's almost a pantheistic view for many Stoics, where God is the universe itself or the rational principle within it, and our reason connects us to that divine nature. It seems to give a cosmic dimension to their confidence.
That's a very accurate interpretation for many, especially the earlier Stoics like Zeno and Chrysippus. They did hold a pantheistic, or maybe pantheistic view, seeing God as the rational, governing principle of the universe itself, and humans partaking in that divine nature through our reason.
Makes sense.
And this perspective certainly offers a cosmic dimension to their confidence, providing a profound sense of purpose and belonging within the grand order of things. What's particularly fascinating, though, is Marcus Aurelius' more nuanced take later on.
How so?
He, perhaps with a touch of agnosticism or just pure pragmatism, acknowledged that whether nature is ultimately ruled by an intelligent providence or is simply a chance product of chaotic atomic interactions, the ethical and practical response should be the same.
What was that?
Basically, accept what happens that's outside your control and act in response as best we can using reason and virtue. The practical, ethical implication of living virtuously remained constant for him, regardless of the underlying metaphysics. It was about how you lived, how you chose to act, not just what you believed about the ultimate nature of reality.
That's a very pragmatic and frankly quite inclusive approach. It moves beyond needing a specific belief system to find a path to meaningful action. But humans are also inherently social creatures, aren't we? Not just individual wills in some cosmic dance. How did the Stoics incorporate community and connection into a meaningful life? They weren't just advocating for solitary endurance, were they?
Far from it. This is a vital aspect of Stoicism that often gets overlooked by that old, unfeeling Stoic stereotype. Aristotle's foundational insight that humans are zoopolitic, political, or social creatures.
Right.
That was strongly reinforced by the Stoics. They understood that self-sufficiency isn't isolation, it's inherently relational. We are born into communities, we depend on others, and we thrive within them.
Okay, so how did they think about that?
Well, a lesser-known but highly influential Stoic named Heracles famously described these circles of concern. It's a really elegant model.
Circles of concern.
Yeah, imagine concentric circles radiating outwards. It starts with oneself at the very center. Then the next circle is immediate family, then extended family, then your local community, fellow citizens, and ultimately the largest circle encompasses all humankind.
Wow.
This concept forms the very basis of modern cosmopolitanism, the idea that we are citizens of the world, cosmopolites, and have duties and connections to all rational beings simply by virtue of our shared humanity and reason.
That's a beautiful vision of interconnectedness, laying the groundwork for a global ethic centuries ago. Amazing. And they valued friendship then. It wasn't just about solitary endurance or simply tolerating others.
Absolutely not. Stoics place a high value on friendship and actively sought good company. Seneca notes quite beautifully that good people are mutually helpful because they exercise each other's virtues.
They help each other be better.
Exactly. This is a crucial point. Friends aren't just for comfort or convenience. They're partners in self-improvement. They hold us accountable, they inspire us, they provide opportunities to practice virtues like justice, kindness, patience, loyalty. They recognize that our virtues are often activated and strengthened in us by the presence and example of others.
So choose your friends wisely.
Definitely. This led to careful and practical advice on choosing companions wisely. Musonius Rufus and Seneca both suggested avoiding company that embodies the negative habits or traits you're trying to escape. Fairly obvious, maybe. But conversely, they urge seeking out those whose values you admire, whose character you wish to emulate, and who will elevate your aspirations.
Surround yourself with good influences.
Because your social environment, they understood, can either reinforce negative habits and pull you down, or profoundly inspire virtue and bolster your resolve to live in accordance with your best self. It's about consciously building a community that elevates your will, rather than diminishes it. Becoming a better person with others, not just in isolation. #TagOutro.
Wow, what a journey we've taken today. From the unimaginable depths of human suffering in the concentration camps with Viktor Frankl to the profound yet eminently practical insights of Stoic philosophers like Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius, centuries apart, yet speaking the same language in some ways.
It really is striking, isn't it?
The single, unbroken thread woven through all these powerful perspectives is the incredible, undeniable power of your own will, the last of the human freedoms. It is the freedom to choose your attitude, your judgment, your response, no matter how dire the external circumstances that life throws your way.
This inner sovereignty, as we've seen, it's not just some philosophical concept to be debated over coffee. It is the bedrock of true resilience and meaningful living. From Frankl's voice of conscience, urging us towards self-transcendence,
to Epictetus's precise dichotomy of control, clarifying what is truly ours.
right. The message is clear. While we may not control the world around us, we retain ultimate, unassailable agency over our internal world, our judgments, our choices, our will. This gives us the profound power to transform adversity into a training ground for virtue, and to consciously live a life deeply connected to our values, our highest reason, and ultimately, as Hartley showed us, to all humanity.
So, what does this all mean for you, listening right now, starting today? If the only thing truly up to you is your volition, your internal response to life's inevitable challenges, both large and small, how might consciously cultivating and guarding this inner freedom transform your everyday experience? What external master might you be unknowingly serving right now by neglecting the immense power of your own will and allowing your peace of mind, your sense of self, to be dictated by things outside your direct control?
It's a powerful question to sit with.
It really is. It's a question worth pondering deeply and perhaps a liberating practice worth starting, one thoughtful choice at a time. Thank you for joining us on The Deep Dive.